Hey, what's up? Swinging for the fences. I'm Holden. I got JT. I got Title. We got an odd slate of baseball today. We got a, 7-game slate, 6-game slate? 3 of the games are going to be double headers today. So it's an odd way of looking at it. On one side, that's me again. I never can figure out the YouTube. It's okay. Me plus technology not working out too well. So anyways, we got 3 doubleheaders on the slate. Before we get going, I want to give a shout out to Title. I was going to do this before he even tried to make me feel guilty. So what show were we doing that you had? And this is football, just real quick. What show were we doing when you had the Packers and the Vikings early in the week?
The Wednesday pod that we do with Rubio every Wednesday that drops on Thursday. All
right, so we do a Wednesday pod with me and Title and Rubio, and he came up with it. And then I really wasn't onto the Packers until JSU said something. So I trust Title. Like, Title legitimately now has some street cred. I no longer want to beat him up or, make him drop soap in the shower if we were in prison together. Everything's good for Title. So congratulations. Nice call there, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, I had like 40% in the million, 150, but I locked in Boston Scott. So I had a couple in the top 100 that were making a roll, but the chalk Boston Scott just couldn't finish it out. But saw JSU, he was on the same thing. He had won a lot more in it than I did. Saw a bunch of subscribers take stuff down, and a great start to Free Money Sunday. But ready to dive into baseball. It's a good 7-game slate on DraftKings. FanDuel absolutely messed it up with 3-game early slate and then a 3-game main slate, but it is what it is.
Hey, JT, forget about football here. Let's get into your BABIP list, because before the show started the last few times, you've just been going off about BABIP. Pitchers are just in line for a big regression, either positively or negatively. Before we get going on this slate, throw out a couple of guys on your BABIP list that are either going to do really well or really bad in the coming days.
Yeah, it's something we talked about a bit last week, and I made a list every single day, and I said these are guys that the community, the industry, was very high on last week that I didn't think was going to do well, and as a result, I warned some people off. So tonight my list is Cody Ponce, number 1. He's the pitcher for the Pirates. I know it's a 7-inning game. We'll get into a little bit of strategy about how we're going to handle that on this slate. The problem is you can't fade these games because otherwise you're only leaving yourself 4 opportunities. I think there's going to be some offense in some of these 7-inning games. Number 2, making a return. This is his second time in 2 weeks, Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw did not do well against the Diamondbacks last time out, and I got seduced by a hideous Diamondback lineup and actually played him a little bit. I won't be doing that tonight. Dylan Cease is number 3. So those are my top 3. Dylan Cease, pitcher for the White Sox, is a guy who I think is going to get shelled tonight. Clayton Kershaw, I just don't think the upside is there, and I think the Reds are going to have some pretty good offense today in Game 1 in support of Trevor Bauer.
Title, before we get into these this slate, I want to get to DraftKings first. Like, how are you handling the 3-inning games? Pitching okay, fading bats, what are you doing? What's your strategy?
Yeah, so I'm interested in 2 of the pitchers in the 7-inning games, Bauer and Luzardo, pretty much the 2 that I'm going to be playing everywhere. So it's making it really easy for me. For the bat side of it, it's not my biggest interest. There's a one-off that's something that's cheap, I don't mind it, but I'm mainly going to stick to the 2 pitchers in the shorter games.
Yeah, I think everybody is. I mean, I just did a dummy lineup without looking at anything. Bauer and Luzardo were in my lineups. JT, let's get to pitching here. Listen, Bauer and Luzardo, these are the 2 guys everybody's going to. We got these doubleheaders with the Pirates, Reds, A's, M's, Cardinals, and Brewers, so it's all over the place. Bauer and Luzardo, are they at the top of your list? And can you recommend another 2 or 3 pitchers if we just want to get different? Because I think these 2 guys, we talk about chalk, this is like mega chalk.
Yeah. So on this slate, it's there's not a lot of pitchers to choose from. You got a couple of guys who are coming back after being relegated to the alternate site, a couple of guys making a start after being shipped back to the bullpen. So there really isn't a lot in terms of who can I expect. And we're talking DraftKings now, right? Because Title talked about it. FanDuel just didn't put together a playable slate. So you're looking for, I think today with these pitchers, you're looking for 5 innings and 5 or 6 Ks and a chance at a win. I think that's where you're looking today. So Yeah, Trevor Bauer, definitely number one on the slate, definitely number one in terms of the teams. The Pirates, and I'll write the Pirates up a few times a week. I like their young talent, but they just aren't getting it done right now. So Bauer, Luzardo, and then there's a couple of other places that I'm going to look. I normally don't like Jose Barrios on the road. He's been pitching pretty well. The White Sox is an all right-handed team, definitely a lot of power. Depends on what they come up with their lineup, but I'm going to have some Jose Barrios tonight. The other two pitchers, I should say, that I don't think anyone is going to play. Pablo Lopez for the Marlins. He got absolutely destroyed by the Braves. Last start out, we expected it. The start before that, he didn't do so well. He's at home now, facing a Phillies team that I didn't see their lineup come out yet, but the projected lineup, the bottom of the order, Holden, I think you could go, 3 innings and 7 strikeouts against. So Pablo Lopez is a guy that I'm going to play for cheap. And then Marco Gonzalez is a guy who has just been – he's a guy that last year I stacked against a lot. I did that at the beginning of this year, and he's actually been really good. And against a team that, you're going the first game a doubleheader, I might have some Marco Gonzalez. I probably won't have a lot, but he is the other pitcher that I think could be a little bit surprising in terms of putting up some decent points here where there are not a lot of options, in my opinion.
Interesting. Anybody else? I mean, Title, listen, I'm playing one single entry GPP today. There's a lot going on. We got football starting up. I still love baseball, and we only got 2 weeks left. So I'm still going to be active here, but is there anybody else I can look at this point? Anyone else?
No, I'm similar to you. I'm especially on today's slate. With the weird times and prize pool's not the best. I'm running one lineup. FanDuel completely messed it up, and that's where I usually get most of my action. So I'm with you with one lineup, and it's going to be Bauer and Luzardo for me.
So on FanDuel, which of the slates are you playing?
To be honest, I'm playing NFL's 2-game and a single game tonight because I cannot get behind if it was a 7-game, a 6-game, I'd absolutely play it. But the 3 and 3 it's just a mess.
No,
and no prize. The tournaments are awful too. It's bad.
Yeah, they just kind of punted on baseball, which is unfortunate because there are some guys that are still grinding there.
I was grinding it every day. It stinks. Yeah. I love baseball, but you can't play it when the top prize is $1,000 or something. So
I can. I mean, that's nice. Top prize of $1,000. Hey JT, how are you handling this? Like, are you even touching FanDuel tonight or today? Because it's a 4-10 lock.
No, I don't play a lot on FanDuel to begin with. Draftkings is usually where I play. So like once or twice a week, I'll say, let me see what the FanDuel contests look like. And because I don't play cash, I mostly play tournaments. This year, I've always been disappointed when I've looked. It seems that their top line for the most part has been 20 or 30K to first, which is fine. But when you're talking about 17,000 entries, I mean, I'm not one of these guys that can do 700-800 lineups, right? I'm going to do my max 150 and then throw in some in the higher dollars. So Draftkings is where I get most of my play, and that's where I'll be tonight. And I'm going light as well. I think I got 20 lineups in the $15, and I got a couple of higher dollar single entries that I'll be in. But it's not going to be a normal night just because the sites definitely are focused on these showdowns, which is interesting. They'd rather pivot people to a 2-game slate than this 6 or 7 that we've got. So that's my plan for tonight, and I recommend the subs do that too. I wouldn't play what you normally play. Get a little fun tonight, have a good time, and hopefully we'll get back to those bigger slates tomorrow on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe it. That's it. Like 2 weeks left, and then it's playoffs time. So get ready for that. You know what? I'm feeling good today. A nice little day in football. It's an odd slate. We're probably, viewership is going to be weird. Playing tonight is going to be weird for baseball. Usually I'm 125 to 150 likes. Let's just do 100 likes. We get to 100 likes, one of you is going to get some Run Pure Sports gear because you're the actual grinders here in the last 2 weeks. Big shout out to everybody watching right now. This is like diehards. So let's get on to the bats. Title, I want to start with you here. Single entry, GPP, cash lineups. And we'll start with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I mean, are we looking at anything from either side here? Pittsburgh, you're probably not touching because they're going up against Bauer. And this is, a 7-game? This is one of the 7-gamers? Yeah, this is one of the 7-gamers. So is it going to be really easy and just say fade?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I haven't seen a lineup out yet. Have you guys seen one
No.
for the Red? Yeah, no lineup out for the Reds. But if we get a leadoff or if we get a really good value up at top that I need as a one-off, I'm fine.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got the Reds. You want it?
Yeah, I do.
Shogo, Castellanos, Votto, Suarez, Moustakas, Aquino, Senzel, Barnhart, Jose Garcia.
All right. So, I mean, if you need Shogo at 2,200, that's the only play. Just because he's $2,200 and he's leading off. So that's the only play I can recommend for cash. Otherwise, nothing.
Okay. So how are you handling this 7-inning deal here? Can we get a little different and find a bat in a 7-inning game where you just hope the offense goes off and then get 4 or 5 plate appearances?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Reds here. So there's in my opinion, a better 2K outfield option than Shogo that we'll talk about in one of these other games upcoming. So I probably won't have any Shogo, but I like the power in this Reds lineup. I talked about Cody Ponce. BABIP over his last 2 starts of 111. BABIP on the season 200. That's a 90-point difference. I expect that to go up. He's giving up 2.8 home runs per 9. And he's third in terms of hard contact of pitching on the slate. So if you're by the numbers, Cody Ponce is the pitcher to pick on this slate. And so I know it's a 7-inning game. I wouldn't necessarily look at a 5-man slate. What I would do here is I would pick your 3 to 4. I personally like Moustakas, Suarez, Castellanos, and you can even throw Nick Senzel in there. I think he's in the 7-hole. He's 2-7 on DK. It's his first start back. He was on the IL for a little while. Or you could go to Votto. Votto hasn't been the same this year, but if you're going to focus on a 3-4-man red stack, you do that. Pair them with Bauer. And there's some other cheap options that we'll talk about in these other games. But I feel like on this 7-gamer, there's this offense and really one other that if you don't get a piece of, I think you're making a mistake, even though there's 7-inning games. And we're talking about home teams, just because the opposing pitcher is so bad. It's such an opportunity here for the Reds.
So is this GPP strategy only? Like, if you're going cash?
Yeah, not cash. Cash, I'll be honest, cash, yeah, you can. And there's a couple of, you could play, because when I was doing the position rankings, you guys know, the subs know, we do a playbook. We put a playbook out almost every day, and the playbook talks about top stacks, top pitchers, top plays at each position. Some of these positions are pretty thin today, just because you've got 7 games, but some of them doubleheaders. Some teams aren't even fielding a position player at that position just because of the way the dual eligibility works. So Mike Moustakas, for example, at second base, that's a fairly weak position today. So in cash, yeah, you could. I know he's expensive for cash, but for tournaments, I think, yeah. And I haven't looked at ownership, but the last couple of times we've had because usually Draftkings will X these games out and say, yep, we know they're playing, but they're not going to accrue points. The last couple of times they've done a 7-inner, one in particular, the Angels were on the slate, and they were facing a bad pitcher. And I said, you know what, I'm going to roll them. And they were under 2% owned, and they absolutely went off. So if the Reds absolutely go off, or if the Brewers, who I'm going to talk about, absolutely go off, you're going to have an under 5% owned stack that's going to be in a really good spot in the tournament.
All right, just real quick, we did have a sub in chat say this. We got 15-mile-an-hour winds in Cincinnati. Yeah, I looked that up earlier. It's like 10 to 15, maybe gusting at 15. You're going to get a bump, right? You're going to get a little bit of a bump there. But, how much does that really how much does that go into your decision-making? Like, we already know JT's on a title. Is that going to move the needle a little bit for you with the Reds? No.
No, in 7-inning game, it's just if they just say they don't hit Pittsburgh earlier, they don't get there quick, then you're really drawing dead to an inning or two. It's just, it's a great GPP play because it's going to lower it. But as a home team in a 7-inning game, they could get 6 innings at bats. It's just not something that I really can do in cash games.
Yep, no doubt about it, man. Let's get into Philly at Miami, and we got a guy that I like to go after, huh? Got a little Pablo Lopez action. Listen, Pablo Lopez, this guy's got some strikeout upside if he could ever get deep into a game. We're just not seeing it right now. He's coming off a horrific loss to the Atlanta Braves. And, gosh, I could talk Atlanta Braves offense all day, and we will once we get to that game. But Here we are in this situation with the Phillies. They've seen the Marlins 1.5 million times. And then on the other side, Miami going up against Vince Velasquez. You don't know what you're getting with this guy, Velasquez. Maybe there's a turning play in there, JT. I'll get you in a second on this. But who are the cash plays from Philly, and if there's anyone in Miami?
Yeah, I actually like the Miami side of more than Philly, especially because on DraftKings their prices are very reasonable. The outfielder, I guess that you like more. I'm guessing JT is Matt Joyce at min price 2K batting in the 4-hole. Yeah, he's a better play than Shogo. I like him a lot down there. Marlins are just mispriced. Dickerson leading off 3.8K, way too cheap, and I like him a lot. Isan Diaz, he's in the 8-hole, but at 2,200 at a second base position, that is really weak. That's an absolute punt that you can make. Starling Marte is a little too expensive for my liking at 5,200, so I'll stay away there. And then the last guy, Garrett Cooper, 3,500. He has power. I don't love first base either if you need it. The Marlins are very cheap and make your lineup work a lot.
All right, JT, what's the plan of attack here?
Yeah, Velasquez is a guy who they've been, bouncing back and forth between the bullpen, giving him. It's now 8 days since his last start. His last start was a good one, and I just don't expect him to replicate it. He just has not been consistent at all. Even in that start, he gave up 7 hits and 2 earned runs. So I like this Miami side. I actually have a little interest, like I said, in Pablo Lopez. He's a talented young pitcher. He pitches much, much better at home. And the Phillies have a couple of guys in Hoskins and Real Muto who are listed right now as questionable. I'll have interest if those guys make the lineup just because I have that much faith in Pablo's stuff, and I expect a bounce back after such a terrible performance in Atlanta. If they miss, I'll have even more interest because you're going to get an Andrew Knapp down there at the bottom. You're probably going to get a guy who's coming over from the alternate site. And then Title talked about the players in this lineup. Corey Dickerson, Matt Joyce. I have interest in tournaments for Starling Marte, Cooper, even Jazz Chisholm. A little bit more expensive now at 3-2, but lefties against Velasquez and the power righties. And I do think this is a good spot for the Marlins, who've been pretty, they've been hitting the ball pretty well. They did so yesterday. So
here's the deal. Again, 60 more likes, you get RPS gear. Run Pure Sports. One of you is going to get it. Costa 26. You want to get yours? Info at Run Pure Sports. If you already won and you haven't gotten in touch with anybody yet, info at runpuresports.com. Then they're going to take care of you. Okay, we get through that game. Now we got another doubleheader game. St. Louis, Milwaukee. Is it even worse? Listen, the Brewers are playing. Title. Come on, you got to throw a Brewer in there in a 7-inning game. Isn't that mandatory? How are you going to watch tonight?
See, you guys just think I'm playing these Packers and I'm touting them, or I'm playing the Brewers just because I'm a fan. No,
you completely ruined your NBA cred with Giannis. It was all Giannis and this guy and that guy from the Bucks.
You realize, or especially on FanDuel, that they were always, like Travis, who other people were still paying $4 just because of the value and like they placed at a high pace. So even though they were, all right, no, I don't. Not the Brewers. I don't have interest in the Brewers in a 7-inning game. I don't have interest in this game, period. So you can move on from me.
JT. So here's an interesting tournament thought. Like, is it just a complete waste of money to stack batters from the 7-inning game and see if you can, like, maybe even differentiate yourself by using 3, like a little mini stack? You talked about that with the Reds. Maybe you can go to a 2 or 3 man stack from a 7-inning game because no one's going to play them.
Yeah. So look, I think if you start off with your analysis and you say, well, these 3 games are 7-inning, I'm going to forget about those. I don't, for tournaments, I think that's wrong. And I think it's wrong because you have to look at where is the offense going to be. And you've got, in this game, first of all, 2 pitchers who came over from the Korean baseball organization, which is, I have a soft spot in my heart for. But the pitching there is not good. And Josh Lindblom has not been good. And he's, the issue with the Cardinal side is Lindblom is probably only going to go, if he goes 4 innings, it's a lot. He's probably going to go 2-3. He's been pitching in the bullpen because they had some off days. So I don't expect much out of him, but there's not a lot of interest I have in the Cardinals side. On the Brewers side, the Cardinals have the 4th worst bullpen over the last 2 weeks. They've got a guy who's making his first start in more than a month because he's coming off the injured list. And he's not good. He's just not good. So they got no hit yesterday. I mean, if you believe in professional pride, you believe that these Brewers are going to come out and at least do better than they did yesterday, which is getting no hits. So I do have some interest in the top of the Brewers lineup, not necessarily the bottom because it's a lot tougher for them to make value. You're kind of banking on a home run. If I was running one lineup, no, I probably wouldn't look here, but I'm not. I'm running multiple lineups. So yeah, I have some interest in guys like Avi Garcia and Ryan Braun, and even Jed Jerko and Nottingham maybe as a catcher, just at a sort of a weaker position today. But I wouldn't go overboard with it, and I have no interest in the pitchers.
Guys are busting Title for being a homer now. Listen, he's not a homer. The guy earned his cred this weekend. No more busting Title on this, and that's it.
It's funny. Himself. I can take it.
No. He proved himself. No more busting on Title. Not this week. Wait till next week when he gets something wrong. This week he's the king. He's a god. He's a golden goddess. God, yes, whatever. We got another 7-inning game. Oakland, Seattle. Title. I'm just not even going to go to you. So,
you know my answer.
PT?
I'm not really interested in the offenses here, to be honest. I kind of like the pitching matchup. You could look at Oakland for a power one-off, but Gonzalez has been so decent. I mean, even better than decent. That he's a guy I may rather use and roster than roster any A's. So for me, it's the pitching here.
All right, let's just move on from that. If you guys are a part of the bet side, so we got Run Pure Sports and then we got Run Pure Bets, and I think there's a combo of like $100 to get the whole thing. And often when I'm setting my DFS lineups, I'm going to go over there and see what the guys are saying about games. And if somebody really likes the game a lot, in one way or another, and today's game is the Braves and the O's. Joey Work, my man, putting in hard time over there. So Atlanta tonight, we got another Lopez going to the mound tonight. This is Jorge Lopez, though. And this Jorge Lopez, I don't think should really scare anyone. Sure, he had a nice little outing against the Mets in his last time up. A big deal, right? Who cares about that? And then the Orioles on the others. And let me also add this. The Atlanta offense has just been otherworldly lately. And then Touki Toussaint. Touki Toussaint, if there was a normal season, he might be in extended spring training still because they sent him to the alternate site after struggling so badly. They just kept him over there. And now there's so many injuries to their rotation. They've got to start a guy that has no business being in Major League Baseball right now. He has great stuff. He does not know how to pitch. So who are we targeting here, Mr. Title? Any cash game plays? I've got to think there's some cash in here.
Oh yeah, this is my Atlanta's my favorite team on the slate. I'm gonna whatever pieces I can fit in, I'm gonna want. They are priced up as they should be though, so they're not going to be mega chalk, but they're definitely going to have ownership. Acuna 6K, Freddie 5.5. Those definitely are expensive, but a home run already is paying it off. So I'm going to try and jam as many in the lineup as possible. I still haven't seen a Braves lineup yet, so I'll be looking for that and looking for the value. I'm on the core today. I'll definitely have some Braves in it, but we got to see other guys that are at the top of the order if there's something weird going on. And then on the other side, I like some of the Baltimore side as well. Also have not seen a lineup there. The prices are a lot more affordable on DraftKings. And with a 7-game slate and 3 of them being a 7-inning game, I don't have much interest in. I will get some Baltimore in spots that are cheap and that I need. Again, I haven't seen lineups out for either of these games, so it's too hard to give concrete answers right now, but it's going to be the top of the order on both sides. Atlanta, I'll pay up for the big bats if I can get them, and I'll search for value in other spots.
No, Dhruv Patel. No one. Dylan Smith. No, there is no love for Touki. Okay, there's no love for Touki.
No.
Right. Sorry, guys. So JT, both sides here. Let's go. There's got to be some goodness. Where am I getting a little leverage with the Orioles, or is everybody just going to be on them too? This is the game, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen updated ownership. I have to believe that Atlanta is going to be the highest owned. I mean, they should be. They're in this spot. I hate it when they're going to be the highest owned, but in this spot that they're in, I mean, it's easily the best offensive spot with a team in Baltimore that's had the worst bullpen over the last couple of weeks. They traded away their major league quality bullpen pieces at the deadline, so they've got literally nothing there. .578 xFIP, giving up 1.4 homers per 9. Jorge Lopez did well for a few innings against the Mets. Then he reverted back to Jorge Lopez and he started to get smashed. And that's what I expect to happen here tonight. On the flip side, it seems like, DJ Stewart has hit a home run in every game in the last 10 days. I think he's 2.4, 2.6. Cedric Mullins leading off at 2.6. Mountcastle has been pretty good. And then even Rio Ruiz. I mean, Tukey really struggles with left-handers. So Rio Ruiz at a third base position, that's a little bit difficult to field today. This is definitely has game stack potential. The Atlanta bullpen isn't all that great either. And with Tukey, the reason why we don't have love for Tukey, I would consider him if he'd been with the big league club and he'd been going 4 or 5, even 6 innings and giving up some runs, just because there is some strikeout upside at the bottom of this Baltimore order, but he hasn't been. And so I have no expectation for what his floor could be in terms of innings, except that I know it's not going to be a lot.
Interesting. Very interesting stuff here because, again, this is bonkers, man. I've never seen anything like this. We never have seen anything like this. To have 3 7-inning games in one slate, like that's where we are at this point. And
that has to be why the prize pool. I'm hoping that's why the prize pools are lower, and especially on a Monday. I'm hoping Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays they have them bigger like normal without NFL. So I just keep telling myself that too, that we've never seen 3 7-inning games. I mean, they're just trying to get baseball content going. So sorry to interrupt you. I just want to bring
I'm
that
just
up.
worried that one of these 7-inning offenses is going to go off, and then you're completely off it. And that just feels always something kooky happens. And it feels like that could happen today. But I mean, if you just go by the numbers, what do you want? 6 or 7 inning at bats versus 8 or 9. But that's what scares me today.
The ownership's going to be way different. That's why cash GPPs, whatever player you are, you can't just, that's why throwing your cash lineup in GPPs like I sometimes used to do and try not to is very negative EV because you got the guys that are taking different approaches at way less ownership, and it's baseball. Anything can happen.
So your single entry is going to be a lot different than your cash.
Yep, I'll do the chalk pitcher. I mean, I do the chalk pitchers and stuff, but I'm going to try and have like a mini stack of or like maybe stack Baltimore with only 2 Braves bats or something. I'm not going to try and build the chalkiest lineup because you're not taking down a tournament as likely.
All right, Twins at the White Sox. This is all JT right here. Dylan Cease against the Twins. JT, I turn it over to you. Have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Cease was a highly touted prospect that just hasn't materialized, at least not yet. And I think the White Sox are maybe hoping that he'll be a little bit like Lucas Giolito and that he'll mature eventually, but it just hasn't happened for him. He has the worst xFIP on the slate, 5.81. He's giving up, 1.8 home runs per 9. He's been one of the luckiest pitchers in baseball with a 233 BABIP against all season. That's down just a little bit at 229, but this lineup, I would like a more left-handed lineup, to be honest, but both sides are hitting Dylan Cease very hard. So Kepler, Marwin Gonzalez hit a couple of homers over the weekend. He's been hitting the ball hard. And then you go to the power righties, Sano and Nelson Cruz. You could even play Jorge Polanco tonight. I like these Twins bats tonight in this spot. And I think I think Cease is going to get lit up a bit here.
Is there any chance as we look at this slate here that the later games are just under-owned because the games are starting so early? Like you look all the way down. We got West Coast games tonight, 9:10 Eastern with the Padres and the Dodgers. This game's at 8:10 Eastern. Either one of you guys see getting a little advantage? Because we normally have a little bit of ownership discrepancy, but could it even be bigger today, especially since there's a football game on too and people don't want to have to invest in that?
Yeah, especially if you don't have a lineup, which you may have the Twins, White Sox lineups by 4:10, but if you don't have a lineup, you probably won't have lineups for the West Coast game. So that game will definitely be lower owned because there's nowhere for guys to switch, right? If you pay 4.6 for Austin Nola in the catcher spot, and all of a sudden he's out, your only options by that point are probably. I guess you will be able to go to the White Sox game. So. I think there's good plays in both of these games, in particular, like I said, on the Twin side here. But definitely, I think ownership will be maybe slightly depressed Although the flip side of that is Title was saying Title's not interested in any of these 7-inning games. If people are thinking they're not interested in the 7-inning games, then you're going to have to play these 2 games. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
I think talking through it, I think now the Braves and the Orioles is by far going to be the chalkiest game. I think both sides with the value, and then I think the Marlins are going to be chalky too with the value bats like Matt Joyce at min price, Dickerson in the mid 3s. Because we're not going to have lineups for these later games. People are going to be playing NFL and other stuff. It's hard to play certain guys in cash when because it's only 2 games that you can switch to later. And with position eligibility and stuff, you could get screwed and have nowhere to go at a certain position. So I think those 2 later games are going to have less ownership. I'm not saying ever like certain guys on the Twins. I'll just jump right into the Twins because I do like some of the Twins bats. Max Kepler at 4.6K, Josh Donaldson at 4.1K. I like those guys a lot. But then we can also get like if Marwin Gonzalez gets up in the lineup, 3.3K and stuff like that. But it's so hard to risk a Marwin Gonzalez and other plays like that without knowing. So those are the certain guys that you'll get at really cheap. People are still going to play like a Max Kepler or Donaldson because they just expect him to be in the lineup. So those are my takes on that game.
Well, you're throwing out your core plays. This is interesting for subs too. So, like, how do you handle that right now? Because you can always do a late swap, but this is not an easy thing for you guys that are trying to break this down for the subscribers, right? So, what are you doing? You're throwing out a lineup. Do you update it later, or do you just throw Dodgers and Padres in there that you feel are going to be comfortable? How are you handling that?
So I'll walk through my process a little bit without giving too much because it is a free show. But I'll start with my 2 pitchers because I already have those guys locked, like the Luzardos, the Bauers, and then I go and I look at all right. So my favorite stack is Atlanta, but I think they're going to be really popular. But then so I reverse engineer my build and be like, all right, Matt Joyce is my favorite value at 2K. I'm just going to plug him in, and then Dickerson. Just say I want Dickerson, him, plug that in. And then I'm going to look and then I'm going to be like, all right, I have enough money in other spots where if I want to be different, I'm just going to backload the whole last 2 games and just leave my spots wide open and just, if I want to know, I just want to go all in on those games. And I'll hope that 4 teams, I'm able to build a lineup with guys in the lineup from those 4 games and just game stack that completely. Now that I'm talking through it, that's going to be my tournament approach. I think hope Atlanta in that game, or I'll have some Baltimore, but Atlanta's going to be so chalky. Like they really are going to be.
I've been doing a lot of shows with you guys, and I feel like sure the plays are are really important, but talking with you guys through your processes is where I think people that subscribe are going to get the most benefit out of. What's your process today, JT? Is it any different, or do you want to give some cliff notes maybe that, since it is a free show, you could throw it out there?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'll do is, and I do it every day, and I'm going to do it probably after the show. We have to get everything done a little earlier because of this lock time, right? So I did the playbook, and the playbook was done, I think, around 12:30, right? Normally, I try not to push that until 3:30 because we have more info on lineups, and I've got a little bit more time to think about what I think the best path is to getting that on Draftkings 200 points that you need to get to the top of the tournament. What I'll do after here is I'm going to take a look at the ownership. And when I see the ownership, I'll break it down by the stack percentage. So do I think Atlanta's probably going to be 22% owned today, something like that on DraftKings, maybe even more than that just because it's a smaller slate. And I'm going to look for the team that I believe the most in that's owned, under 5%. And I'm going to go pretty heavy on that team and mix in my other stats. So let's say if today it's the Reds, right? Or it could be the Brewers. I don't know. Or it could be the Dodgers. Not the Dodgers. Could be the Padres because I don't think the Padres are going to get a lot of ownership, and I like them today. Then it's really hard. It's going to be really hard to mix the Padres with the Braves. But I can mix the Padres with the Marlins, who I expect to be a little more highly owned. So that's kind of where I go. And then when you're stacking, it's not easy to stack. You can't stack every team together because if you look at certain teams, you're going to want the position from both of those teams, right? So if I'm stacking let's just talk about Braves and Padres. I'm going to want, on most nights, probably not tonight, I'll want Freddie Freeman and Mitch Moreland if I'm looking at both those teams, right? So I'm going to find a way to get off of those teams together and find a third team at middle ownership that I like as well.
All right, good stuff. I like this, guys. I'm all about game theory. Hit the like button. I lowered it to 100 today so you guys can get some swag, and ladies, of course. So we're 45 shy. We got 55 right now on a very odd MLB slate here. We're just going to wrap it up with by the way, did you get everything out that you needed to, guys, about this Minnesota White Sox game? Did we even discuss the White Sox enough? Yeah, we're fine. Good.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, so here's the late night game. You know, you got Dinelson Lamet up against the Dodgers. Seems like every time I look on the internet, Mookie Betts is hitting a home run. I feel like there's going to be some lefties that people like in this game too. And then on the other side, Kershaw. So you're talking about regression. I'm going to start with you, JT here. So Padres, thoughts on them against Kershaw, thoughts on Kershaw again, and then going in the other side.
Yeah, so I talked. Kershaw is second of the three pitchers who've had the lowest recent batted ball in play against average. He's at 179 over his last couple of starts. It's only down a little bit from his season average, but again, in a normal season, we'd be only about a quarter of the way through as opposed to almost done. So I like the Padres here for a couple of reasons. One, I think Kershaw is getting a little lucky. Two, this is a much different Padres team than he's faced, and I like the power here against him and a bullpen that has struggled recently. Kenley Jansen has been absolutely terrible the last couple of weeks. Don't know if he's going to get in or not, but that puts stress on the other relievers as well. So I definitely like some of these right-handed bats. Austin Nola is probably him and d'Arnaud, 1-2, 1-2 one way or the other in my catcher rankings. And here's my thought process on Kershaw and Lamet on this slate. With their prices on DraftKings, Kershaw is 10-4, Lamet is 9-1. Lamet's coming off what I call a ceiling game and one of his absolutely best performances. I don't expect him to repeat that performance against this Dodgers team. I think he's going to have some trouble with the left-handers. So I don't think he's going to make that value. I don't think he's going to pitch to that 9-1 price. Kershaw's facing a tough enough lineup that I think some of those balls in play are going to drop, and I don't think he's going to pitch to his 10-4 price. So it's not a matter of, of course these guys are two very talented pitchers. It's a question of, with all the pitchers available to me on the slate, who do I think is going to pitch to their price point? And I just don't think that Kershaw and Lamet are going to pitch to their price point tonight, and that's why I like the bats a little bit in this game.
All right, Title, give it to me. What are we doing in this game? How much exposure in your lineups do you have to this game tonight?
So this is talking through it. I was looking at more NFL, MLB, and stuff more. I might make two lineups now and stack a Marlins or Baltimore or a cheap stack with the Dodgers in one lineup and the Padres in another. This is my favorite tournament stack for sure because it's two high-priced pitchers. So right away, people aren't even going to consider the bats. It's the last game of the night. Everyone's going to be sweating NFL, and they're not going to be waiting for lineups to come out. And these are, we always talk about the Dodgers. Every night we can play the Dodgers. And this just feels like one of these nights where the talent is 7-game slate with 3 7-inning games. And this is going to be just as owned as those guys, with the Dodgers being one of the best offenses in the league. It just really makes sense and adds up. So both sides of this game, and I like how JT does. Lamet, absolute ceiling game. I don't expect that again. I think Lamet's good, but the Dodgers offense is really good. And then Kershaw, the past years we've been looking at him. He's not the same Kershaw as he used to be. He's still good. He's definitely still good. But this Padres offense has been absolutely hitting the ball hard. So I'm going to stack both these teams, and I'm going to play the big bucks for the Tatis and the Machados when I'm stacking the Padres. And I'm going to pay the big bucks for the Mookies. And Pollock should be in there for pretty cheap. And Seager I'm going to play a lot of. So I'm going to stack the top of this order, the expensive bats, with the cheap guys on the Marlins like Matt Joyce and the Dickersons or the Stewarts of the world on Baltimore. So that's my plan now that I'm speaking out. I'm not playing cash games. This was a tournament. In cash games, I will not have interest in this game just because we don't know the lineups. There might not be any value because the big good bats we want are priced up. So these are the games I would avoid. If you're playing cash games, it's the Braves, it's Baltimore, and it's the Marlins. Pretty much any of that with one-offs. This is a tournament game that you want to win all the money with.
And JT's just doing it. He agrees with you, and it seems like it sounds. So now I gotta spend some more money and put a second single entry in now. Now
That's what I'm gonna be doing.
Yeah, that's how we got to do it. Listen, title. I'm all in, buddy. I'm all in. So let's do stacks here, JT. You know, are these two teams in the late slate, the top two?
No, not the top two for me. It's forgetting about ownership. Braves, Twins, and I'm going to say the Reds, because I just expect that pitcher is going to get hit around a bit. And, you know, I like what Title said about mixing and matching Padres and Dodgers, because there's plenty of, first of all, there'll be some value at the bottom of the Padres lineup, and guys like Ona and Mateo potentially, who are both under 3K. But you throw Matt Joyce or DJ Stewart or Cedric Mullins in there, and you're going to be different, because the other thing that I was thinking about it as Title was talking is that from the pitching standpoint, I think there may be people who look at Bauer at 10-8 and say, well, man, that's a 7-inning game, and not think it through and say, I'd rather get Kershaw or Lamet for a 9-inning game, which doesn't make any sense at all. But if you're not breaking it down by the math and looking at Bauer actually has a better percentage chance of matching his value in a 7 game with those complete game points, you know, I think people will make that mistake too.
Interesting. Okay. Any one-offs? I mean, you guys, again, it's such a weird slate. You kind of mentioned your one-offs already, but Title, give me those 3 cheap guys. There's the cheap guys.
Matt Joyce, 2K. Stewart down there at 2.4K, I think he is.
DJ?
Yeah, DJ. And then, well, I'm not even going to mention Shogo now that we're talking through it, because I'm not using all my outfielders on that. And then Corey Dickerson, he's not way cheap, but like 3.8K, I think he is. That is too cheap for Corey Dickerson. I mean, he's my home run call of the night too, if you want to get that out of the way.
All right, home run call of the night, JT.
Yeah, it's Max Kepler for me. I think that Max Kepler leads that game off with a home run. And then the Brewers lineup just came out, and in the 6 hole is Orlando Arcia for 3-4. I know that no one's going to play that game, but Arcia in the 6 hole, he's a guy who has extra base and some home run pop against a very mediocre lefty. Do not believe in Kwang Young Kim's surface starts, please, because he is far worse than the way he's pitched in his first 13 innings. And I think it's going to show tonight.
Were you grinding those KBO games, JT, at the beginning?
What's that?
Were you grinding KBO at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you saw this guy. You know what he's talking about. Yeah, Title, what's up?
Yeah, I wanted to mention I saw some guys in the chat that have been following. I'm a huge Gavin Lux guy. I think he's an absolute stud. We don't know the lineup yet, but I could see him being in the lineup against the righty Lamet. And don't leave Gavin Lux out of your stack just because he's in the 7 or 8 hole. That's a tasty. I mean, Gavin Lux is this line. I love this Dodgers lineup. This Dodgers lineup's great, but at Gavin Lux, I'm gonna want a spot because he's cheap enough, and I'm gonna have a spot open for him, expecting him to be in the lineup and have to make pivots if he's not, because he's always under owned, and he's my second dong of the day call.
So this is a fascinating. Do we have anything to talk about on the FanDuel side? I mean, seriously, it's 2-3 game slates. I'm almost like just figured out yourself at this point.
They all apply. What we've said really all applies to FanDuel as well. It's really hard to play over there. If you're playing over there, I don't really know what, because tournaments, they're just I don't know. I'm a FanDuel guy as well. It's just they really botched the slate today. So I'll be back on FanDuel tomorrow playing, but there's no need to go crazy with your bankroll. Tons of sports going on. They
punted baseball today. Seriously.
Yep.
Like we punt players in fantasy in DFS. They punted a whole slate today. You're not doing FanDuel at all? Is that what you said, JT, or you got a little bit there?
No.
Why bother? Hey, JT, did you play a lot of football yesterday?
What's that?
Did you play a lot of football?
Yeah, I did play a lot of football.
Let's talk football. We got 15 minutes left, and I want these guys to get to 100 likes so somebody can get some free gear. We're only at 64. And I do want to talk some football with you guys because, listen, that's the big one. We got a big game coming up tonight. The Print Factory show is coming up with Big T and Hoop. So if you are a subscriber, make sure you check that out. I will say that Big T is probably the best showdown player that I know of. There might be someone better out there. I've not met that person to this point. And, they were busting their fade Zeke, fade Woods. I can't believe you guys said that. Yeah. You know how many showdown slates there are? Guys going to get things wrong from time to time. Stick with them. If you stick with your process, you stick with these guys, you're going to make some money. I'm telling you right now. But JT, what are some of the things you took out of this weekend here? I'll just say this. The whole Packers-Vikings thing comes down to title and JSU, and I just jumped on board, and I had a good weekend when I played that stack. How about you? What'd you win on?
Yeah, I actually did put Rodgers to Adams stacks, and I mixed in some of the Atlanta game. And then the biggest mistake I made is I wrote up the Cardinals at Niners game as a low-owned GPP stack, game stack. And I wrote it up, and I wrote about Raheem Mostert because of Tevin Coleman's condition, his sickle cell condition. And then like a jackass, I didn't play any Raheem Mostert. And he turned out to be I think he was the second highest scoring, if not the second, maybe the third highest scoring running back. And I don't know why that happened. I think it was probably because yesterday I was crunching, I was writing up baseball notes, even though I played one baseball lineup just so I could play the guys that I was telling the guys to play. And so that was my big takeaway was I'm gonna get my NFL lineup squared away on Saturday. So I'm just making adjustments on Sunday. And I recommend people do that too. It's something in past years that I've thought about is that when I have my work done for that, because I view it as work. I do. It's fun to watch the games, but I'm putting real money on the line and I'm expecting a real return. So you've got to put some time in is to make sure that your lineups, I want my lineups to be set like the middle of the day Saturday and just adjust to news and adjust to line movement if I feel like it. And I didn't do that just because I was away last week, was having a good time, and play the guys you believe in because I really thought Raheem Mostert was the guy to play yesterday, and still did okay, but it would have been a much bigger day if I had Raheem Mostert instead of Boston.
Well, I saw that there was a note there when he caught the first touchdown pass. He basically lit the whole field. He had the fastest sprint speed since 2016, Tyreek Hill. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, this guy is the Tyreek Hill of running backs because all this is you're just hoping for a big play and you're getting it from him. But that is just a big play. That to me is just he's the Tyreek Hill of running backs. I'm plugging him in there, man. There's a huge ceiling on a limited amount of touches.
Yeah, the reason to play him yesterday, though, was mostly because of the community's uncertainty over how Shanahan was going to use that position. But once Coleman was announced as sort of iffy to play, it was just like, okay, Shanahan, the one guy in that backfield that Shanahan trusts, that he trusts Mostert, he trusts Coleman. Last year it was sort of, you had to follow the pattern, right? If Coleman had a big game, Mostert was getting all the touches next week and vice versa. So once Coleman was out, Mostert was sort of the obvious play, even though McKinnon got some touches too. And you needed him to break one, and that's what he did. So shame on me, but if you played that stack with Mostert, you probably did pretty well because Kyler Murray to Hopkins was pretty under-owned as well, and that came through pretty nicely.
Yeah, I love the Kyler Murray yesterday with the DeAndre Hopkins. What do you think there, Title? Give us a little review, then I want to get both your thoughts on tonight's game, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so I'm still a cash player in FanDuel. I get a bunch of action down in NFL cash and had a good cash lineup. It could have been better. I ended up going Dalvin over Jacobs. I was Jacobs pretty much all week and switched to Dalvin in the morning. Thought process was if Jacobs, it was a close spread, and if Carolina got up, Jacobs' workload definitely goes down. He's not as much of a pass catching back. It was a perfect game script for him. He was a great play. I just like Dalvin's security in the passing game as well a little more. Got that wrong, but still hung in all my cash games and 50-50s. That was great. Tournament call, the Rodgers stack. I said Rodgers, Adams, Lazard, and then I ran it back with Dalvin instead of Thielen. I changed it in the morning. That definitely hurt a little bit, but I got Rodgers at 2% in the $200 and Lazard at 1% in the $200, and I think those were all probably RPS members. So that was very good. Rodgers was at the top of everything. I lock button Boston Scott on both sides. I thought he was clearly the best value on a slate that I liked a lot of top price and mid-range options. So I thought he was definitely better to play than Antonio Gibson, who we were a little unsure of the workload, but that's what we needed in the beginning of the week. Boston Scott just didn't end up working. I actually didn't watch any of that game. I was sweating out. I had 4 TVs going, and I wanted to watch Lamar and McCaffrey and the Packers and stuff like that. So I got to go back and watch and see or I can ask you, you probably watched it. Was his usage not there? Was he not on the field a lot? I know they ended up losing the game, but I'm not surprised to hear Boston Scott chalk miss, but how did he miss exactly?
Well, first of all, I'm telling you, the Washington front seven is amazing.
And you called that.
Yeah. They are totally underrated this year. That's why I had them as my number one defensive play yesterday. I loved Washington. And then the other reason why I loved Washington is because the Philadelphia offensive line is decimated. They couldn't run behind the line. They couldn't protect Carson Wentz behind the line. The third reason is maybe Boston Scott just isn't that good. Maybe he's just not that good. So I don't want to overreact to 1 week, but there was just too much going against that Philly offense yesterday. And bottom line is Carson Wentz is just not good in that game. He was bad. He had a horrible game, Title.
Yeah. So, all those reasons. Washington was a sharp defense. That's a great call. I was a pricing play for me. I locked him in, so that definitely I didn't take. Yeah. That's the difference because I had 150 in the million. I was like 25% the field, 25 times the field on the Rodgers and all that. So, but little mistakes not mistakes, but stands like that. It prevented from a huge week, but it was still a great week. And football is awesome. I'm excited for next week. Excited for games a day, games Thursday. It was a good week. That's for sure.
My cash lineup sucked, and I actually made up ground on tournaments, which never happens to me. Never, ever.
At least you made it back.
Yeah, at least I made it back through. I don't want to say lucky because you guys are giving a great framework there, but damn, my cash lineup just not so great. All right, what do we got tonight, JT? Anything you're looking at tonight when we're watching this game? Any plays stick out in particular? Anybody? I'm here. Let me just throw 2 things at you. Daniel Jones against a great defense, and does Darius Slayton have any value after really showing up last year but having some other guys back this year?
Yeah, I'm actually taking the Monday showdown off,
Okay.
So I'm going to be playing MLB, but I'll leave it to Title, and I'm sure Title has some thoughts.
What do you got, Title?
Yeah, so I'll be playing. I haven't looked at DraftKings yet, so this is mainly going to be so this is going to be talking about FanDuel. It probably applies, but I just haven't looked at pricing. I'm not too in on Daniel Jones. I like the game script or what could be the game script though. So I like coming from behind. I don't think the Giants win. I don't. I like the other side more, but Darius Slayton, I do have interest in it on FanDuel. He's 5,300. His price is very cheap. He gets me everything I pretty much want. So on a 2-game slate, I will have a lot of Darius Slayton, but my quarterback of choice is Ben Roethlisberger. I don't love Roethlisberger, but out of all 4, he has. I expect them to be the highest scoring offense. I expect them to win. I like Juju a lot in a rebound year this year, so I'll have a lot of Juju. James Conner is one of the top backs on the slate. They've been talking him up all summer that he's gonna be the guy again, like 2 years ago when he just absolutely exploded in fantasy. So I have a lot of interest in James Conner as well. Derrick Henry going to that game. I expect them to be up. I don't think Denver's very good. I think this is a perfect game script for Derrick Henry to absolutely just roll them. I'm scared about this offense now with no Courtland Sutton, with Courtland Sutton hurt. So Drew Lock, I'm going to be low on the one guy I am a little bit interested in is Judy. I think Judy's got to step up and have a game. They should be playing from behind, so he should get some looks, but I'm definitely underweight on this Denver offense in general. So I think the Titans and the Steelers roll, and I'm going to have a lot more of them in my lineups.
All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We appreciate it. Tons of NFL content coming again. We got Print Factory coming on later today. Let me get the calendar up here.
Print Factory is actually already up on the site. It's under the premium bit. Yep, it's already pre-recorded and all up. So I'm about to go take a listen to that after as well.
Yep, I'm going to go do that. We got the lineup review show with Hoop and Mangone. That already came out. Tomorrow I got my quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end positional previews that I'll throw out there for you. We'll still do the MLB NBA live streams. We have that still. We got the first look pod which is me and Scott and Uncle T. Is that the old people? That's the old people.
Yeah.
That's the old people show. G Rizin hit for quite a bit of money. So the old people kicked the young guys' asses. And you guys did well, but G Rizin took the cake.
Yeah, he was up at first. I was chasing for because he had that Rogers, Lazard, Adam stacked, and he ran it back with Thielen over Delvin, and the rest of his lineup worked. He absolutely crushed it.
It all worked. All right, guys, take care of yourself. JT, good to see you, buddy. Good that you're home, I guess, for you. And I hope you enjoyed the beach. Title, wonderful seeing you again today. For all our viewers, thank you very much. And if you haven't subscribed to Run Pure Sports yet, just go over there, check it out. The content's amazing. $65 a month, $20 a week, and a combo with Run Pure bets for $100. I'm Holden.